Hello and welcome back to another Kangaroo Joy Plays video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a project that I'm working on. As you can see from the title and the screen, I'm making my own Magic the Gathering set using my favorite game of all time. That game, as you can tell by the title, is Terraria. I'm going to take a second and talk about both Magic the Gathering and Terraria. Um, Terraria is a game that I've been playing since I was... I've been playing for a very long time. It's a game I revisit all the time, and a game that I love very dearly. Am I like the best Terraria player in the world? No. Have I done everything Terraria has to offer? No. Am I the best person to talk about this? No. But I love Terraria, and I think Terraria would make an amazing Magic the Gathering set, and I'm going to talk about that later. Why? But if anything, we're doing this project as a love letter to Churia, if anything. It is my favorite game of all time, despite Beam Battles being as amazing as it is. I love Churia. I've loved it since I first saw Stampy Longnose play it and begged my father to buy it for me at the store and hoped he ignored the teen rating. I played it probably a little too young, but it didn't matter. First game of Blood that I played. Anyways, Magic the Gathering, on the other hand, is a game I just recently got into. So should I be trying to do something like this? No. But I've fallen in love with Magic the Gathering. At first, I wanted to not. My brother was into it and kept trying to get me to play, and I kept saying, "No, that sounds dumb." Like it sounded dumb and it looked dumb, and he was spending way, way too much money on it, and it completely turned me off. And then eventually I saw one card that was just so beautiful I couldn't not try it out. It was called Indestructible Aura. Um, if I'm not lazy, I'll put it on the screen, um, but I probably won't. But trust me, it's a funny card. And since then, a couple months ago, I have really, really gotten to Magic the Gathering. I joined my first Patreon. Shout out to Mana Cooking with Alex Tron. I just, I just love Magic. I've been obsessed with it for um, almost half a year now, I think, and it's really done something to me to the point where I'm trying to make my own set just for fun. So with that, let's get into the video. Um, why do I think Juria would make a good pick for Universes Beyond? That's what UB stands for. If you're a Terraria fan watching this, I'm going to be explaining Magic stuff to you, so Magic fans bear with me. And if you are a Magic fan and you don't understand Terraria, I'm going to be telling you Terraria things. So Terraria fans, bear with me. And for all the fans, bear with me because I'm probably going to get some stuff wrong in general, just because I didn't do a whole lot of research. I've done most of this work while on the back of an ambulance, just typing away. So, anyways, let's get into it. Terraria mirrors Magic the Gathering's style of non-conventional storytelling. What does that mean? So I'll get into that. Terraria is a massive and loved IP from a fantasy setting with a unique world. If you're a Terraria fan, you know exactly what I mean. If you're not, you're going to see coming forward how unique Terraria is. A lot of people compare it to Minecraft. It is nothing like Minecraft. The only thing it has in common is it is a sandbox. Minecraft is not the only sandbox game. Am I a Minecraft hater? No, I love Minecraft. I've probably sunk in more hours into Minecraft than I have Terraria, despite me liking Terraria much more. Anyways, Terraria is the GOAT. I think for me, it's the greatest of all time. And that is a demon goat mount from Terraria. There is no actual goats in Terraria at the moment. But it still gets updated, even though they said they were done. It's pretty funny. Anyways, so let's touch back on that non-conventional storytelling. Here I've put three cards. in front of you guys. And for Terraria players that don't know Magic, every time a new set comes out, a set is a whole new plane that you're visiting. Uh, Magic's a little more than just a card game. It tells a story. And I wanted to show you one of the most popular characters in Magic the Gathering. There are reoccurring characters. Liliana. Liliana is probably the most recognizable and loved character in Magic the Gathering. So I picked these three cards. They all have to do with Liliana. And just from three cards, I can tell you who Liliana is, just from these cards. Nothing else. A very base level understanding of who she is, but you can take three cards, read them, and it'll tell you an entire character. Not the entire character, but you know what I mean. So for example, right here, first card, Cemetery Recruitment. It is a sorcery. Sorcery means it's a spell that's not a permanent. I'm not going to go into Magic Gathering rules. Um, Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a zombie card, draw a card. So that tells you a few things. One, zombies are pretty important to Liliana. Two, she's taking things from the graveyard. If you look in the art there, you can assume that's her. And she's reaching her hand, which looks like to be in a cemetery, towards another person reaching towards her. And that person is obviously a zombie. Then there's flavor text. This is text that is purely for flavor, for the story purposes, or just a funny quip most of the time. But here it says, to a necromancer as powerful as Liliana, a graveyard is as good as a garrison of soldiers awaiting her command. Now, this already tells you so much about her. From this entire card, this one card, you can come into the conclusion that Liliana is a necromancer. Liliana is a powerful necromancer. And Liliana sees herself as a commander, a general, some sort of noble figure, if anything. You could see that because of the text that a graveyard is seen as soldiers and her attire. Big fluffy coat, golden headdress. As you can see, Liliana, and just look at the smug look on her face. You can just tell that this is a noble person. Then we have the next card, Brink of Disaster. Another random Liliana card. Truly, these cards were picked at random. I wanted to show that just from cards that mention Liliana, that you could that it'll convey what she is. So, enchant creature or land. When enchanted permanent becomes tapped, destroy it. So this is not a super abnormal card. Enchant creature, and when it becomes tapped, that means when it goes into use, destroy it. Now, putting that on a creature, that's not abnormal. Putting it on a land, in the Magic the Gathering community, that is considered taboo. It's kind of a thing that you really shouldn't do if you don't want to like make some enemies. In a one instance like that, sure, it's not really going to hurt that much, but it's almost seen as just rude to destroy someone's land. Land is what you have to work with to cast spells. For example, on the top of this card here, it says 2 skulls and then the number 2. That means you need at least 4 lands to summon this card. Obviously, for Magic players, you know there's other ways to get mana. But for the sake of the argument, land is very important to being able to do things. So destroying someone's land, now that's just rude. Then let's move on to the flavor text. When you find yourself teetering on the edge of oblivion, mine will be the hands taking pleasure in giving you the final push. A quote from Liliana. Uh, this is pretty obvious from the ability of the card and also from the flavor text. You could come to the conclusion Liliana's kind of a fucking dick. Like she is evil. Like she's supposed to be conveyed as evil. This is someone who has no problem with destroying the weak, no problem with breaking the Geneva Convention, which is not destroying lands. This is someone who breaks the rules. Like, for example, breaking the rules of reality by being a necromancer and bringing people back to the grave. This is someone who works for themselves, selfish, doesn't care about making friends, is more interested in war, power. Uh, Frankly, not a great person. Then we have Dread Summons, somewhat similar card to the first. It says each player mills X cards for each creature card put into graveyard. This way, you create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This is a uh, two skulls, two black mana, and an X. X means you can pay any amount you want. So, depending on how mean you're feeling, you could go ahead and make each player mill 10 cards. And then, say, you're playing with 4 people. All 10 of those cards are creatures. Now, chances of that happening, slim. But at its greatest possibility, you are now making upwards of 40 black zombies, because player means yourself as well. 40 black zombies on the field. Now, for 12 mana, which later game is possible, early game not much, but for 12 mana, very expensive, you could really, really change the game with one card. With one card. And the flavor text says, "Did you have a nice nap, Liliana Vess?" See how carelessly she acts when she's reviving people from the dead. It's almost funny to her. She doesn't care about who you were. She cares that you are now a soldier in her army. She's funny. She's quippy. There's a reason why people like her. She is a great character. And from these 3 cards, you can take what you will about Liliana, but from just 3 cards, you already know a lot about her personality. Maybe not her lore, just from these 3 cards, but from this alone, you can get a grasp of her character. Next, I'm going to show you guys a few images. It's a little different looking than Magic the Gathering cards. So in this first image here, the biggest one, you see you're at a purple building, and let's just so you know, you're the cool guy with shades in this scenario, talking to the old man. It says, "You might be strong enough to free me from my curse," with 2 options. One says curse, one says close. Before I describe that, I'm going to go on to the next thing. Then you have also an older gentleman wearing a hat saying, "Being cursed was lonely. So I once made a friend out of leather. I named him Wilson." And then you have a little pixelated icon down there that kind of looks like the guy up top. I'm going to explain this for you if you don't know Terraria. Now, this is the most popular example of non-conventional storytelling that's portrayed in Terraria. It is very, everyone knows this. It's less of an Easter egg at this point and more of just like a, yeah, of course. But obviously, if you don't know Terraria and you're playing it for the first time, this is going to tell you some things. That old man there, when you click the curse button, a giant skeleton comes out and you have to fight it. Once you fight that skeleton, the old man is gone. Well, frankly, the old man turns into the skeleton. You can see it burst out of him. But you assume the old man is dead because you just saw a skeleton burst out of him, huge, flying in the air, and you kill it. Now, once that happens, and only once that happens, a man will arrive at your doorstep. His name always changes because it's Terraria, but his title doesn't. The Clothier. The Clothier, will always say some funky stuff compared to some other Terraria residents. The citizens are always pretty weird, but this one likes to talk about curses a lot, just like the old man from the dungeon. This example, while also referencing Tom Hanks, it is also just saying being cursed was lonely. So I once made a friend out of leather. Cursed. He talks about being cursed. You can depict that from how the old man looks in the dungeon and how this new old man in your town looks. He is clearly the same person. He talks about curses and whatnot. Now, you've come to that conclusion just from two texts, two boxes of text. Terraria is not a story game. It has a story. It has lore, but Terraria itself is not a story game. This is stuff you have to go out of way to talk to people, and it's if you're even paying attention to it. It's flavor text. It doesn't matter what he's saying. What matters is that shop button right there, so you can buy yourself a wig. Now, personally, to me, it matters, but to most players, this is flavor text. Just like Magic the Gathering, you don't have to pay attention to like what the card means. It just does stuff. But just like Magic the Gathering, Terraria has its way of conveying its story through the actions that it does and through the pieces of text that it leaves you. Just like Magic, there's also flavor text on items. This is an item here that is the cloth air voodoo doll. Might be wondering what that is. When a voodoo doll is equipped, you can kill that NPC. NPCs are not able to be killed until you have this active. So obviously other ways around that. But if you equip the cloth air voodoo doll and kill him, Skeldron appears. Now, obviously in the lore, he's been free of his curse, so he doesn't. Skeldron lore-wise wouldn't actually appear, but it's an Easter egg. It shows you that hey, once this guy dies, he turns into Skeletron, just like the old man. It's the final nail in the coffin that goes boom. The clothier is the old man from the dungeon. And of course, the clothier has flavor text on it. I actually can't remember off the top of my head, but it does have to do with Skeletron. Then I want to bring you to building the cards. I'm starting off with the bosses. The bosses are arguably the most iconic thing from Terraria. The only other thing would be its weapons, I guess. Terraria is a very vast game. There's a lot to do. But the bosses are very integral to it because it shows the progress you go along. And you have to defeat bosses to keep progressing through the game, despite not having a story that you have to follow. You have to follow the bosses. Okay. Here, first, we have the most iconic of bosses. Magic Gathering players, I apologize for very ugly appearance. I'm not an expert. But here we have the Eye of Cthulhu. This is the most iconic boss in Terraria, and usually the first one you'll fight. Here we have a 4/4 Eye Horror with flying and haste. Flying is pretty understandable, and haste just means it attacks right off the bat. The Eye of Cthulhu is not two different eyes. It's actually the first eye that transforms into the second. I just have both of them there just so you can see what they look like. But it is most known for its mouthly appearance. So you tap and play Rakdos. That means black and red mana. And you activate its ability. Eye of Cthulhu is goaded. And target opponent gains control of Eye of Cthulhu until end of turn. Eye of Cthulhu becomes untapped, gains indestructible and death touch until end of turn, and cannot be sacrificed. What does that all mean? Basically what it means is you pay a little bit of mana to activate its ability. You give it to another opponent. You give it to someone and say, hey, take this guy from me and send him as someone else. This is supposed to mirror the Eye of Cthulhu's game style, especially if you're playing multiplayer. The Eye of Cthulhu, when you're going through Terraria, comes out of nowhere. You technically can summon them yourself, but for the most part, the first time you ever encounter Eye of Cthulhu, it's just thrown at you. And then, since it's thrown at you, it's the first thing in the game, you're usually very underprepared for it. So, while in theory, Eye of Cthulhu being the very first boss, it being not very strong, have giving it something like indestructible and death touch doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you think about progression wise, Eye of Cthulhu early game is a threat. Same in Magic. It should be a threat. You want to send it out there, send it flying at people. If Eye of Cthulhu is in your control and you want it to fight the opponents, you want to give it to someone for your turn, and then have someone else send it at them. Now, Magic language, did I write this card perfectly? No, it could be fixed up a little bit. But for the most part, I feel like it did a good job conveying how it feels when Eye of Cthulhu first comes towards you. Next, we have the Brain of Cthulhu. You might be thinking, oh, wow, a lot of organs of Cthulhu. I hope Cthulhu shows up. Maybe. Anyways, 5/5 horror nightmare with Myriad. Brain of Cthulhu must Myriad for each opponent. You might be thinking, what's Myriad? I don't know what Myriad means. Myriad means when you attack with that creature, then you can send a clone of it to attack other players, and those clones get destroyed at the end of combat. And if you're a Terraria fan, you're thinking, okay, that makes sense. The Brand of Cthulhu, the way it fights once you summon it, it will make copies of itself, and if it hits you before you hit the correct one, you're fucked. And if you hit it before it comes to you, then you're fine. It's basically you have to decipher which one is the real Brand of Cthulhu as it's coming towards you. You either have to be fast enough to hit them all, or have to just choose correctly, because it does come at you pretty fast. So, when you declare this creature as an attacker, you do so by secretly placing it in the myriad copies face down and shuffling them. You might be thinking, oh, that's weird. Why would you do that? Because your opponents face the villainous choice. Creatures you control with Myriad receive double strike until end of turn. That's just a great buff. Now, they could either choose that and be like, you know what? I'm gonna take the full damage from Myriad. Why not? It's gonna hurt hard, but I'm not choosing which one. Or they vote on which Brain of Cthulhu is not the copy. If chosen correctly, creatures with Myriad do no combat damage this turn. Same way, if you hit Brain of Cthulhu before it hits you, boom, you just send him back just a little bit. If chosen incorrectly, each player with Myriad gets first strike and death touch until end of turn. Its ability lasts until the end of turn. That just means it's going to do more damage just by hitting you. Whatever blocker you have out, boom, they're gone. Next up, we have the Eater of Worlds. You see I have a real Magic the Gathering card on the side there. And the Eater of Worlds is a 3/3 worm. Why is he 2 creature types, you're probably asking. The reason is because I wanted this card to be versatile, and Magic has a problem with having multiple creature types for what is basically the same thing. So that's why it says worm. There are worms and there are worms, but for the most part, this card it benefits worms and worms. When I first thought of his playstyle, I thought of the card Saw in Half. And there's a reason why I did that. For Magic players that don't know Terraria, when you're fighting the Eater of Worlds, if you hit him anywhere but the head, he splits in 2. And then you have 2 versions of him going after you. If you hit one of those, not on the head, now you have you understand what I mean. It's just like the Saw in Half card. Let's look at the Saw in Half card first. This is an instant, first introduced in Infinity. Destroy target creature. If that creature dies this way, its controller creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature Except power and toughness, its attack and health, is half that creature's toughness. Round up each time. The Eater of Worlds says, when this creature enters, all players discard a card. For each card discarded this way, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Eater of Worlds cannot be cast from command zone unless you control 0 creatures named Eater of the Worlds. That part's more for the Magic players. You don't have to worry about that. It basically just means you can't cheat them out. And the discarding counter thing, that's just because Eater of Worlds comes at you through the ground, catches you off guard, especially if it's your first time playing. You're destroying orbs, getting fun items, and then you destroy your third one, and then boom, there's a giant boss. You didn't expect it. So you're a starter, you discard a card, and it gets a little bit stronger. Then, what it says. After that, worms and worms you control have, when this creature dies, create 2 token copies of it, with their power and toughness halved. If power or toughness is an uneven number, round down. The reason why it's round down and not round up is because you would keep making copies of it and it would kind of go infinite, because if you would round up from a half, if you're at 1 and you go half and round up, you're back to 1, so you round down. Signifying that Eater Worlds, every time it splits, it does get weaker, but there are multiple of them. This would make a really fun tribal deck to build around in Commander. Um, like, I just think having worms and worms have a little bit of spotlight and giving them this go wide strategy would make this a very, very powerful commander. And in general, it would just be a good card. Uh, this card is supposed to benefit worms and worms, but for the most part, even on its own, it's pretty decent. Yeah, you kill it and it comes back with 2 versions of it. It helps you keep a bit of defense, you know. Anyways, on to the next card. Next 2 cards. We have the King and Queen Slime. Terraria players are thinking, why is the Queen Slime here so early? We're still on pre-hard mode. Yes, the Queen Slime admittedly is a hard mode boss. She comes in later. But I wanted to make them partner commanders because I feel like the amount of progression you're at once you meet these people, they have about the same difficulty. Now, obviously, if you put Queen Slime against a player who would normally go against the King, it it obviously would be unfair. But the point of difficulty in Queen Slime is about the same as King Slime. That's why I felt like it would be fine making them about the same strengths. King Slime and Queen Slime's also fight very similar, with Queen Slime just flying. King Slime says that is an Ooze Noble Ninja. As you see, there's a little ninja guy in there. That's why I added the little ninja part. It says whenever an Ooze attacks, create 2 1/1 Ooze creature tokens. This activates once per turn. That's great. That's amazing. You're probably thinking like, wow, a token generator. That's so original. Yes, it is a pretty great token generator. It means you have to be very just strong with it. You have to come on strong. You have to be very aggressive with him for it to pay off. But when it pays off, it will. Then, for Queen Slime, says whenever an Ooze attacks, target Ooze gets flying until end of turn. By herself, is Queen Slime amazing? By himself is King Slime pretty good? Yeah, he's alright. Together, I feel like they're great. I think they make a great pair, and it kind of makes sense. They are king and queen, and their playstyles are very different, very similar. I mean, the way they start is they just are constantly barreling towards you, and they're not super strong, but they create a bunch of minions, and a bunch of slimes that go after you. Now, slimes are slime strong? No. Is King and Queen Slime strong? No. But when you leave one of them unchecked, the other grows too strong. The King Slime, if left unchecked, he's pummeling you. You get too busy fighting the slimes, then he's going to do big damage to you. Then those little slimes, you know, if you let them go unchecked, then there's a bunch of them, and then they start doing a bunch of damage to you. Uh, it's supposed to be meant to be an aggressive token maker, same way it is when you're fighting them first for the first time. Next, we have the Queen Bee. 5/5 insect noble with lifelink, flying, and infect 2. Oof, no one likes to see infect, no one likes to see toxic. But insects you control have flying and infect. Very simple, just when your insects, they fly and they infect. Same way with her attack patterns. The Queen Bee is probably the most simple of the bosses, in my opinion. She has not a lot of attack patterns. What she does good. She flies, she heals, and she infects. Uh, Queen Bee is not a hard boss if you're prepared. If you're unprepared, she's not easy, especially with the poison. Not accounting for needing to heal past her poison effects, it kills you pretty fast. Especially if you get too distracted on it and then she swoops in and kills you. So she's supposed to be meant to play where you have to be a bit more defensive against her. Um, Infect means you do damage in the form of -1/-1 counters. So that is permanent toughness and power decreases to those creatures. Or if it hits a player directly, which flying has a better chance of doing, you get a poison counter. What does poison counter mean? Poison counters, if you have 10 of them, you lose the game. It just sucks. It's not great. It's annoying. Just like Terraria. It's just not great getting poison counters. But it makes sense for her character. And you really have to avoid it. Now, she also has lifelink and another ability that says each time an opponent receives X poison counters, heal X, where X is the amount of poison counters opponents receive this turn. I think this is the first time I use X in a card so far. So if you don't understand, just algebra, X is a number and X is equal to X. So wherever X is, everything else is X. So if an opponent receives, for example, 2 poison counters because she did damage, you'd be healing 2 health from her lifelink, which means when you do damage, you heal that much. So you'd be healing 2 health, but then you would also be healing 2 more health from the poison counters that you put on. That is because of her honey. Early game, pre-hard mode, honey is a pretty good resource. Very easy to obtain resource for healing. It has a longing effect that over time you keep healing. So for Queen Bee, I just felt like this makes sense. Next, we have the Old Man / Skeletron. They will not be together on one card. They will be a front and back, as we says here. So front man, old man, 1/1 human citizen, 2 mana and black. So some of the other cards I didn't put the what I thought their mana value would be, just because I have it written down, but I still need to like kind of balance it. So don't really worry about what the payment for the mana of stuff is. Anyways, when this creature dies, transform it only if an opponent destroys it. And then it says back, Skeletron is a 9/9 skeleton avatar with flying. I talked about Skeletron earlier. The old man turns into Skeletron. So having it be a transform makes a lot of sense. Early game, you want to get the old man out there because people either have to avoid going into the dungeon, fighting you, or they're gonna have to start fighting you and risk you blocking with the old man, having it die and come back transformed. Um, just like in Terraria, if you go to the dungeon early game, kind of fucked. So you have to prepare yourself before you go to the dungeon, before you fight Skeletron. Skeletron is the second to last pre-hard mode boss and arguably the hardest one of pre-hard mode in my opinion. I think Skeletron is not super easy to go against. So Um, if this creature was transformed into Skeletron by any other means than stated on card, exile it and cannot be removed from exile. When this opponent each when this happens, each opponent receives a 20/20 Dungeon Guardian token with Trample, Haste, Vigilance, Double Strike, Death Touch, Flying, and Shrouded. Now, if you're not a Magic player, you can read that and still tell that ad is insane. Then it says, this creature can only attack player with Skeletron in exile, and this creature cannot block. Destroy this creature once opponent with Skeletron in exile loses the game. So, Magic player, you might be thinking, that is insane. Why does it do that? I'm going to explain that to you, because Terraria players probably already got that. What happens is if you go to the dungeon and you try to go down into the dungeon before you defeat Skeletron, you are met by the Dungeon Guardian. The Dungeon Guardian is a floating skull head. Looks identical to Skeletron, but it's not Skeletron. It's floating skeleton head, and it immediately kills you. There is no way around it. Technically, it's possible to kill the Dungeon Guardian. Very, very, very hard. Yes. People have to like cheat their way into killing it. And if you do, it gives you a funny little special item. But for the most part, it's supposed to be meant as a, hey, don't go in there, you're going to be punished. The reason why is the dungeon has some of the best loot in the entire game. For pre-hard mode, once you defeat Skeletron, a lot of your good weapons are going to come from the dungeon. A lot of amazing weapons come from the dungeon and can even bring you into early hard mode. You won't have to worry about upgrading your weapons for a little bit, as long as you have some pretty good dungeon loot and on top of other stuff that you've acquired. But the dungeon is arguably the best place to get stuff. And same goes for late game, but we're talking pre-hard mode. Pre-hard mode, the dungeon is probably the best place to get stuff, weapon-wise. So that's why if you try and cheat your way in there, you die. You have to earn your way in there by freeing the old man of his curse, by defeating Skeletron. Same way with, I think, trying to cheat Skeletron in, which a lot of people like to cheat cards in transformed. There's cards that let you transform a card without paying a cost or paying a lesser cost than what it would normally cost. So having Skeletron early game as a 9/9 that was only worth 3 mana, that is amazing to have. Amazing to have. Early game Skeletron is a menace. Trying to cheat your way in there, just like the dungeon, you're going to get punished for it. So, obviously, just like most of these cards, it can be written better, especially in a way that means that they can't cheat their way into having a Dungeon Guardian token without using it for its intended purpose. But for the most part, I feel like this did a pretty good job at conveying Skeletron. Then we have, last but not least, the Wall of Flesh. Oops, I lied. This is Lepus and Turker. This is a funny joke card. Lepus and Turker, for those who don't know, even some Terraria fans might not know, is that these were bosses that were in the game that were removed a long time ago. They are holiday bosses. Lepus is obviously supposed to be kind of like the Easter Bunny, and Turker is obviously supposed to be a Thanksgiving themed boss. Pretty funny, bosses. Not super hard, but they are an 8/8 food creature, rabbit, bird, egg, with reach. The reason the reach is because of Lepus's hops and Turker's very long neck. He has this like skeleton neck that flies out, but you can't see it in here because it's technically a separate. Anyways, Turker and Lepus. This is more of like a joke card. Its ability says, when this creature enters, return all battles from graveyard to the battlefield. You might be thinking, oh, battles. Yes, battles. Terraria has a lot of events, like raids. There's like the goblins, the pirates, the Martians, celestial pillars. There are plenty instances in the game where you are met by a horde of enemies. So I'm in for future videos. I'm going to represent that through amassing. It's an ability where you amass an army. So amass goblins, amass pirates. Um, so I'll do that through amassing and also through battles. Like for example, like the Blood Moon. So I'm gonna have a couple battles in this set. So this is just a way of getting your battles back out there because they do reappear, unlike Lepus and Turker. Then it says exile this creature, heal X life, where X is the amount of battles on the battlefield. Now, when Lepus and Turker were bosses, they only really gave you like one good thing, and that was like decent food. So that's why I made them a food creature. Kind of like you eat the eggs, you eat the turkey, you know. Um, so technically, you could pay 2 mana and sacrifice it just like any food card to give you health, or you can exile this creature the same way they were exiled from Terraria and heal X life, where X is the amount of battles on the battlefield. Now we've come to our last boss for the video, and the last boss of pre-hard mode, the Wall of Flesh. Dun dun dun. You might be looking at this and thinking, that's what a sight. And I agree. First time I saw this, I was terrified. Genuinely. I was also like younger than 10, but point still stands. This is a Defender, Trample, Vigilance, Haste 15/15. Strongest thing we've seen so far. Trample means damage keeps carrying over. Vigilance means you don't have to tap it to attack, so that means it can still be used as a blocker when it's not your turn. And haste means it comes at you very fast. So if you're a Terraria player, you know exactly why I picked those options. Now, if you're not a Terraria player and you're hearing that, you might be thinking, then why did I pick Defender? That's because of lore reasons. It has an ability right here. This says sacrifice a creature. Wall of Flesh loses a Defender until end of turn. Only activate on your turn. So as like a sorcery. The way this works is in the game, to summon the Wall of Flesh, you need to get a guide voodoo doll and throw it into the pits of hell. There's hell in Terraria, by the way. You throw it into the pits of hell. Then the Wall of Flesh is summoned. So the Wall of Flesh, you put it on the board, and you sacrifice a creature, like for example a god. And then the Wall of Flesh loses its defender. It becomes awoken. So as the defender of hell, it makes sense that it's a defender, that you can still use it as a blocker, but when you're ready to attack with it, let it use its abilities of trample, of vigilance, of haste. If you want to use those abilities, then you have to sacrifice a creature to be able to truly put it into effect. That's it for this video. I don't have anything else prepared, but if you were interested in this and want to see more, I really appreciate it if you left a like and a comment. Subscribe if obviously too, but it would keep me motivated to keep doing this. There's a lot of times where I start a project and don't quite finish it, but so far I've been working pretty hard on this. So this isn't all that I have even done so far, but for this video, I just wanted to put this out here just so I had this ready. So yeah, if you like this video, just let me know. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, outro.